and push a button. So, hey, I don't have a gavel, but I'll do it like this. So good evening, everyone. Welcome to August. This is our August meeting of the El Dorado Hills Area Planning Advisory Committee. And let's see if I can, okay, it's following me. I'm John David, Chair, Vice Chair, where are you? John Reslier, Vice Chair Tim White, Secretary Bill Jamaica. So thank you everybody for coming out tonight. We have primarily guest speakers tonight, so we're going to go ahead and get going with this. The first opportunity we have when we start our meeting is after we have identified ourselves, the adoption of our meeting agenda. Is there any changes that are proposed or? Okay. Moving along. So as we begin, we have an opportunity for public comment on matters that are not on our agenda tonight. So if there's something on our agenda you want to address, we ask you to wait till we get to that part of our meeting. So there should be microphones floating around. I don't have an example of one in front of me, but basically you push the button, it turns green. You just set it down and let it go. As long as it's green, it can hear you. So are there any public comments in the room for matters not on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, I'll look at Zoom and ask, oh, wait, is there one right there for you? Oh, Linda's got it.
Yeah, it does tie into globally what I've spent 35 years in this. Hold up.
There you
Okay.
go.
It does tie into globally about what I've been doing here for the last 30 years. It's my understanding that there's a Board of Supervisors item next agenda on the Board of Supervisors to add a Mello-Roos district to El Dorado Hills. Can we get some clarity or any information, Greg, or?
Yeah, the agenda.
Okay, so
Yeah, the agenda was just published this afternoon. I only saw one item that I
Okay.
saw on there.
so it just came out, but you don't, our supervisor doesn't know about it? No. There's two of them. Okay. We don't know anything about this Mello-Roos. Okay. So just for those of you, Mello-Roos is an added tax to the existing residents to pay for infrastructure, which has been my theme for 35 years, that why we fought for Measure Y and Measure E. Okay, I'm going to let that go, but very important that people that pay attention, because we're now being taxed. I understand that this is a developer requested Mello-Roos tax for El Dorado Hills. So let's just all pay attention. Thank you.
Are there any other comments? Dean, you have a microphone by you someplace? Well, there you go.
Explain that?
The Mello-Roos?
Yeah, for the whole county, that means.
No, it's El Dorado Hills.
Huh?
It says it's El Dorado Hills. It's a project. No, I didn't see the specific agenda item. So you got that, Dean? Okay, cool.
Thank you, John. Thank you, John.
You're good.
I just wanted to identify that today the California Supreme Court denied review on the Getz versus Serrano El Dorado Owners Association et al., which is the Serrano Parker development litigation that's been going on for the last approximately 10 years. With that, a few things are now absolutely true, and that is that the Department of Real Estate's public reports, I would argue since 2005, are materially misstated and continue to be. That is a failure of the land use authority in El Dorado County as a whole, and that the respective agencies that have a play in that process have some culpability. That's not to say APAC, but certainly to say Park and Rec agency that's a county accountable agency, the county itself, and so on, have failed their duties to the public. There's a lot of misunderstanding. You know, the Mello-Roos that was brought up tonight, it's a financing mechanism, what you can do with the Mello-Roos, all those understandings. If the public doesn't understand it, it begets the idea that maybe you all don't understand it, because the only ones that seem to be making assertions are the developers themselves about what they can and can't do with little pushback. I really would urge the advisory committee to take a strong, hard look at what's been done wrong in Serrano, because those same formulations are being applied actively in Marble Valley, for example. The same schemes that are proving to be faulty and are rising all the way to materially false statements time and time again in the public reports in Serrano. Thank you.
And then thank you for reminding us, Dean. I think at our last meeting in June, it's so long ago. That's one of we focused on the items that are likely coming back for their final EIRs and how they're going to move forward in the process. And I think we identified Marble Valley. When those documents come back in terms of us being able to comment on the responses in the final EIR, we have a very short window when it goes to the planning commission, and then a little bit more before, if they have to do something else, it could be delayed. But that initial response for the planning commission, those are typically posted 2 weeks, maybe, and then more documents get added over that period. So we were asking audience members and members of APAC, just be ready and recognize that we have to do a lot in a very short time frame when that initial response comes back, and then be prepared to take it and follow it through to the board of supervisors. And the things you're identifying, I think, are some of the concerns that we already have.
If I may add, I would urge the APEC body to develop like a glossary of, known things. If you can, you have a nice website, a really great historical body of records, but there are things in there that we're learning that you just can and can't do. And the group of you might learn that while you're seated. And then the next advisor doesn't know that. But how Melrose works seems to be a continuous problem.
Yeah. Well, Linda's been working on a glossary for us for a little while, and we need to support her a little bit more. So, but we're hoping to have that in place sooner rather than later. But
that's a really good thing, because I've been kind of researching some stuff on that lately too. So that's kind of a good bullet point of information to be able to. So I'll make note of that.
And one thing we've learned is every Melrose dollar ties to we bought something. We bought a piece of land, we bought an improvement of some sort, we bought, a right, and the documents prove that hasn't been being done. I know APEC was formed in 1981, and if you look at and I realize that you're looking at the front end of what's approved and not confirming what was implemented, but that's a problem because Marble Valley is slated to have a vineyard, and there's a suggestion that vineyard could be publicly funded, paid for, and then owned by a private HOA. That's absolutely wrong.
So thank you, Dean, for those good reminders. So if there are any other questions in the room?
This ties into, where we all are as APAC. For many of us that have been here for 30 plus years, we're seeing this, how many times have we tried to fix, and we're not blaming the existing seating supervisors or the planning commission. This is not about blame or this is, no, this is not, absolutely. In fact, the report, I think was so eloquently put by Gary, this is not about blame, it's about moving forward and making this transparent and really, workable. We know the county has fiscal problems. We know that there's a huge fiscal problem, but creating more taxes for us to absorb because of developers' infrastructure needs that are not being funded is not the answer. It's not for us residents.
And I know in the discussion we'll have later tonight, we identified your teams. There's 3 of you, but you've identified some of those shortcomings. So I'm thinking,
and this is strictly separate from that appeal. I just want
I know, but
globally.
but there's some global elements to what you guys are looking at, and I think
I
it's
think
important to
that'll
hear
be
it.
really, give a lot of context. I'm hoping that it will. Thank you.
All right. So moving forward, so our next opportunity tonight is we hear from our supervisors, and I know that Supervisor Turnbull can't be here tonight. And where's Bob? Oh, you're right. You're hiding. Do you have anything you need to share? Because we're going to ask Greg to go first because I know he has an event tonight. Okay. Well, thank you. Well, then, Bob, is there anything from Supervisor Turnbull that?
Okay.
Sorry, Woody. Sorry, Woody.
George Turnbull for the day.
Okay.
Not really, again, as you know, there was a fire that's now pretty much under control, but he's still wanting to make sure that the embers have calmed down. But that is, again, the Grizzly Flats, Somerset area
Yeah.
where he lives. And so, thank God that didn't go any further, but still 45 acres. Last time I think it was 80% contained, and that's good news. Obviously, since George represents District 2 and I represent George, 2, our district is so wide and so varied that we have to be equally concerned about what happens here in El Dorado Hills with also what's happening in Grizzly Flats and everything else in between. What I basically want to just comment about really quickly is the Planning Commission. And Dave, now you're here, you may want to chime in too. We have one item on the agenda of consequence tomorrow, and it is the approval of the design objectives for El Dorado and Diamond Springs. Now, the question is, why is that important to us? Well, the reason why is that a month from now, we'll be looking at Cameron Park, and probably 2 months from now, we'll be dealing with El Dorado Hills. And one thing that caught my attention in looking at the documentation was for the first time, staff has actually supported, identified the primary purpose or one of the underlying purposes for the design. And it's not because of eaves and how eaves might look like or paint jobs or anything else. But the two reasons that are used is to, one, support development of affordable housing, and two, to create economic incentives for developers to invest in the area. Again, that's I think it's important that we, as we sanction and approve these objectives, we understand what we're really approving and what the purpose of these things really are. That ties into what I consider a very troubling decision by the planning department to approve the Green Valley family apartments, something that APAC has flagged in the past. That is right on the cusp of El Dorado Hills, basically in Cameron Park, but again, it's right across the street on Bass Lake and Green Valley Road. It is a apartment complex, affordable housing complex that the supervisors voted against primarily for economical traffic and for ecological reasons. Well, wetland issues. What Karen Gardner determined in her letter to the applicant was that she had approved these apartments based upon her interpretation of AB 2011. I mentioned that law, and also SB 35.
That's right.
As two laws that I think that I would advise citizens and APAC become familiar with.
Yeah.
Because as these design criteria come forward, especially for El Dorado Hills, you really need to know,
Yeah.
what is facing us at this point. And that's all I have to say right now.
Okay. And I will share that since you pointed out, we did host long range planning at the CSC Pavilion in May for public to walk through, look at exhibits, fill out for the El Dorado Hills design standards for multifamily and commercial. I think we had about a dozen, maybe 14 people there. Several people in this room were there. I was asked yesterday to reserve a date. We have a date reserved in this room for September 30th for the second public workshop with exhibits for people to come through and make comments. And the consultants apparently have gone through and they've updated based on the comments they received from the participants in the design review workshop or the design workshop. So another opportunity to come in and participate and give some feedback. But yeah, the way that this is set up is it's for us to have a little bit of input, but it's primarily to streamline the development process so that we have defined standards. Are they the ones that, will they help us? Will they not help us? Is it just really for speeding up development? Come to this room on September 30th and you can have some say. And then follow at the planning commission as they're taking on these projects. So, and that was just me. I've delayed Woody long enough. So what I'm going to do is,
Real quick, I just want to interject on, piggyback on what Bob said, because I was one of the largest commenters on that project. So I know intimately both bills, both Senate bills. And this, I want people to understand, is an illegal use of these Senate bills. Reason being is that the 2011 and the SB 335 are both tagged off each other. It doesn't meet either one of them, and I can prove it. And I'm encouraging the public to file an injunction, because if any development crosses over, what they did was they essentially took a wetland and carved it off this little corner of the property that the development is going to feed all of the drainage on site into these storm drains and open basins, and feed it into the wetlands. And Karen Gardner said that this meets Senate Bill 35. It does not. As a civil engineer that's done this 35 years, it does not. The public can file a legal injunction and stop that project. And I encourage that. I really do, because legally, they don't have they can easily win this. They can easily win this. So the last thing I want to say is, not only is it an illegal drainage into the wetlands, so it doesn't meet the Senate bill that's saying, oh, we're not touching the wetlands. It's okay because we're not touching the wetlands. We're not building on it. I guarantee you, one of the few that I did a complete constructability review, they have to do grading on that piece of property to make that work. Once they do that grading, they're in violation of the Senate bill, and we will stop them with an injunction. And the county will pay for it. And guess how the county pays for it? With us, our tax dollars. So it just, it behooves the county to be good stewards of our tax dollars and not approve these projects. So Karen Gardner approving this project that doesn't meet the Senate bills, that's going to be very easily can file an injunction to stop that. And then we, the taxpayers, have to pay for the legal fees. So thank you. Anybody have any questions or like more information? I have plenty of it.
thank you, Tara. So make sure it's going to flash so we can get this on the switch. Yay. So Woody, we have a microphone up here for you. I'm going to make sure it's on. So let me give you a little bit of an introduction. So we had a presentation in June from DOT, and they've been very good in keeping us engaged and informed about projects that they're touching or they anticipate coming online. But we have not talked to the County Transportation Commission in quite a while. I think Jerry was here a couple of years ago. So I did ask, and Woody Deloria is here. He's the executive director of the El Dorado County Transportation Commission. He was kind enough to accept the invitation, and I'm grateful you're to help educate us a little more and share some information. So I'm gonna, if I can get over here, I'll move your slide up to where you want to start, and you just yell at me.
Yeah, thanks, Good evening, everybody. So my name is Woody Deloria. I'm the executive director of the El Dorado County Transportation Commission. Just showing hands, know what the Transportation Commission is. So, next slide. So the commission is made up of 4 county supervisors, just 1 from 4 and 3 city possible. Council members should any other city incorporate on the west slope, they would become a voting member on that commission as well. We are a regional transportation planning agency. We only serve the western slope of El Dorado County. We do not serve any basin. What's the regional transportation planning agency? It is a legislatively created planning agency that looks at a 20-year planning horizon for all of the transportation infrastructure investments on West Slope. That includes like pedestrian, highways, streets, and roads, bridges, transit. So we're not the transit operator, but it's also transit. We work very closely with them. One of the current projects that we're working with El Dorado County on is the final phase of El Dorado Boulevard interchange. This project has been, as anyone who's lived here for some time known that it's been under various phases of construction for many years. It takes us a very long time to secure enough funding to deliver these types of projects, given our very limited formulaic money that we receive through the state. And given the state's objective to use transportation investments to combat climate change, the beginning Brown administration, now the current administration, we saw that it was important to program our funding to the interchanges on Highway 50 to complete those, because the state is no longer allowing us to add any capacity to the system, and the next meaning adding lanes, and the next sort of phase of that policy will be interchanges. So we wanted to make sure to finish those projects as soon as possible. So we actually have just over 16 million to finish that final phase of the Boulevard interchange. That sounds like a lot of money for us, but Caltrans is walking down the hallway, so we were able to capture that and advance those funds from future shares to that project. So that's just one of the projects we're partnering with the county on. That's in the district, and Alberta Hills. The next slide. So one thing people always ask me about is, where's our money come from, the LEAD program to projects like the El Dorado Boulevard interchange. Prior to 2017, the gas tax had not been increased for 37 years, and we know in 2017 we did increase that gas tax with the passage of Senate Bill 1, whether you like it or not. That's the reality that we all face today. That funding was then protected by a constitutional amendment in 2018. So it is no longer true that the funding can be moved from the gas tax pot to other general fund types of projects. So that money ever since 2018 has been secured through that constitutional amendment. And the concurrent fuel rate is, gas tax is 60. That state is 61.2 cents. The federal fuel tax still at that lower rate than as the federal gas tax at 18.4 cents. That has been adjusted. We're expected to be adjusted anytime soon. The gas tax in California now is adjusted every year annually for July 1 based on inflation. So you see here the news that the governor increased the gas tax again. It's based on that Senate Bill 1 was passed in 2017, which does adjust for inflation. The governor does have the right, the ability under SB1 to forego that increase in a given year if there's a certain financial hardship for the state, but that is not happening. So don't shoot the messenger. That's just where our funding comes from. How it comes to El Dorado County is through a formulaic distribution based on the resident population and the number of lane miles we have, which is unfortunate because as we all know, Highway 50 is a interregional tourism corridor connecting the Bay Area to Tahoe. You don't actually receive funding based on users of that system, just the resident population in this county. That's something we've been advocating to change for most of I've been here for almost 20 years now. So let's put on that. Next slide. So under that Senate Bill 1, the gas tax that was passed in 2017, we worked through a number of funding programs. First being the State Highway Operation and Protection Program, also known as SHOP, that is a direct allocation to Caltrans for improvements to the state highway system. We actually tap into that quite a bit on projects that touch the state highway system. They have fairly decent amount of funding available for us to leverage our local funds and our other state funds to deliver projects. We also receive a direct allocation statewide of $1.5 billion that goes to cities and counties. We have a local partnership program that we apply for. That is a competitive process, given that our county does not have a local sales tax measure. So if we did have a local transportation sales tax measure, we would get a direct allocation formulaically of that funding. We do not have that. We're not advocating for this. There's also the active transportation program, that's a, bike pedestrian program. Mr. Ressler has been a strong advocate for bike pedestrian projects over the last 2 decades at least.
At least.
At least, right. Well, I've only been here 2 decades, so since I've been here. So we have tapped into that program for a number of projects on the Eldorado Trail, hospital, there's a number of bike facilities as well. Freeway Service Patrol is a program that we administer that is the roving tow truck on Highway 50 from Greenstone Road to the county line, AM and PM peak periods. And then transit, obviously Eldorado Transit receives the direct allocation through the commission for public transit service. Trade Corridor Enhancement Program, which is we are not eligible for yet because Highway 50 is not a designated trade corridor. So until that changes, we will not be able to go after those funds. Solutions for Congestion Corridors Program, that is a program we just became eligible for completion of a comprehensive corridor multimodal plan on Highway 50. Then there's some other kind of decimal dust that's in that SB1 that goes to education and to workforce training. The State Transportation Improvement Program, that's a longstanding funding program that we administer. That is funding that is actually allocated in program to the Eldorado Board. So that is appropriated fund that comes directly from the gas tax to the commission. About $10 million, about $2.5 million every 2 years. So given the $16 million price tag, you see this is one time to generate revenue. On the federal side, we work directly with the Sacramento Area Council of Governments to administer the federal funding programs. Sacramento Area Council of Governments, or SACOG, is the metropolitan planning organization for the 6-county Sacramento region. We are actually unique in that we, the commission, serve as the regional transportation planning agency for Eldorado County. 4 of the 6 counties in the Sacramento region are under that SACOG, or that Sacramento Area Council of Governments umbrella for their regional planning functions. So we keep that autonomy within the commission. The same level. So on the federal side, we have the congestion mitigation air quality funding and the surface transportation block grant program. Those are both competitive funding sources that SACOG administers through a 6-county competitive round, and then also federal transit assistance. You may have heard in the news on the federal side of things, the current surface transportation bill, which passed 5 years ago, expires September 30th of this year. The Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act passed under the Biden administration. There was talk about a new surface transportation bill in the current administration that is now stuck in the House Ways and Means Committee, and not going to see light day until that September 30th expiration date comes and goes. So we will see, like, just extension of the current federal bill. This is just a slide that shows kind of the flow process of what we do with Eldorado County and the city of Placerville. There's a large number of plans and efforts that go into our 20-year regional transportation plan that we update every 5 years. If a project is seeking federal funding or state funding, it must be in the plan that we adopt. So we make sure to include everything under the sun that is likely to be needed in that 20-year horizon. We really focus on that 5 and 10-year short-term action plan, but that is a must. That's a federal requirement we have to do. So that's the delivery process. People always ask me why it takes so long to get things done. From identifying a project to actual construction, actual heavy equipment moving dirt, take 8 to 15 years. That number is increasing given the increased cost of product delivery. And when we bid a project, we see those bids, and now the price of fuel and materials is gone up 50% since the last bid we received. So just stretches that process out. So that is us in a nutshell. Be happy to answer any questions.
So we'll go ahead. We'll start up here and see if there's any questions up here, and then we'll open the room. Do you have any? John always has a question. Well, maybe not even a question.
I only have 12 questions.
Oh, microphone.
Talking about the interchange. Good. Talking about the interchange on 50 going eastbound. What's happening with that?
So if you go back to that second, third slide. That would be a Raphael question, DOT question. We're on the financial side of things as far as programming the funds to the project. This slide behind me, in front of you, but this gives the most current update on the project status. So, gives a brief description, but I wouldn't even begin to answer any engineering questions. I work with a lot of engineers and I try to understand what they say, but I'm certainly not going to try to convey that to you.
Here's in lawyers, so.
But you have to realize that you've been looking at this particular spot for almost 20 years, okay? And I would like to be able to live long enough to see it actually happen. So you guys got to move on that, all right? I'm not getting younger every day. The second thing I want to mention, White Rock Road, you're going to continue from the county line coming across to Latrobe and then eventually hook up with Silver Valley. APAC and other civic groups have mentioned that the sound studies for White Rock Road for that section are flawed. You had a meeting at Folsom. I believe some of our supervisors went. I hope they went. And as of now, we have never been answered about those studies. And the thing is, once federal money is used for any part of that project, they have to meet federal standards. So I'm wondering, are you considering a new study because money has to be spent for a new study for that road?
So it's not like a Raphael application plus 50, but we are actually a separate agency from the department.
Yeah, but you're giving the money.
Well, we don't have any money programmed for White Rock Road. We would not have any funding available or within our control that would go to a new bus stop. So, I think that project has also been in the works for decades.
Oh, for at least 20 years. That's right.
But again, that would be a DOT question. I would not be able to speak.
Third question, and I'm going to finish.
I may be able to.
We talked about bike lanes and things along that line. Every time I go up to Placerville, I notice you got a beautiful bridge that goes across and you have all of these amenities for bikes. I don't see them down here. So where's the money for it to come down here?
There has been discussion about the pedestrian overcrossing from, around the Nugget Market area. That was included in the environmental document for Central. One of the.
Central.
We have, that is actually, Supervisor Ferrero and Jerry Barton from our office were just down there today in Elmore Hills on essentially a bike tour, looking at improvements that we are really seeking funding for to get folks across Highway 50. Whether it's pedestrian overcrossing or adding some bike lanes to one of the existing undercrossings. I don't know what that will look like yet, but it is definitely part of the in the long-term plan and something that we advocate for and work for.
Okay, all right, thank you. You're gonna have a class 1 bike.
Under, yeah.
Where? I'm sorry.
On the east side.
The interchange.
Yeah.
The new interchange will have bike facilities
Yeah.
go all the way to New Town Center. So you'll have a new bike facility because they're gonna have to take out the existing sidewalk and all that. So
On the east side of Latrobe and up and then north in Delaredo's Boulevard, under the highway. Along that new on-ramp you were asking about.
Oh.
So,
You know the traffic.
and we're also working to extend the Eldorado Trail west from where the terminus is now. one thing I have always said to folks who ask me, you know, why haven't we built any of the Eldorado Trail on the western end of the county? I think the development pressure from Folsom will start to make some noise and want us to build, you know, start building the trail from the west up.
You have that existing railroad line there that certain people have a hook on, and you can't get it away from them. And that would be a great boom for this entire county. But, you know, that's one.
So- Just write a letter. Yeah, but again, and the Transportation Commission has identified potential opportunities for pedestrian and bike trails, like there's, you know, a bike trail, class A mixed use, I think, on the Bass Lake property, on the west side of Bass Lake Road as it goes around the Bass Lake overflow that will connect to what they did for Silver Springs. And I think even on Bass Lake Road at Silver Springs going to Green Valley, again, it's a matter of, you know, they've identified it, finding the money is the other part.
All the way up, you know,
It sounds like a Netflix series you should.
and you know, that place. Okay.
It's still successful. So we used to have.
Hello, you know.
So we've monopolized the conversation in the room. Are you ready? You have a microphone? Go.
Hey, Woody, thanks for being here. Appreciate it. Thank you. The local residents. You mentioned something about funding for White Rock Road. Is that White Rock Road coming from Folsom to Latrobe, or are you talking Latrobe towards Silver Valley Parkway?
Segment that we're involved with. You know, the Capital Southeast Connector is also very much involved with that segment coming outside the county.
I'll answer that for you. It comes from the county line. It goes from the county line all the way to Silver Valley.
Mentioned that there's no funding from Post Street to Silver Valley Parkway.
Compared to any portion of that project. That doesn't mean there's no funding available for the project. The county also maintains their own local funding and their traffic impact mitigation fee. So if I say that we don't have a funding program, it's only from our agency.
Yeah. Martina said he has the funding for the $14 million. Thank you.
Can't take credit for it because that's money the county pulls in. So he has that money. Yeah.
Anyone else in the room? Ready to go?
Yes,
Oh.
Woody, I want to thank you for being here. Believe me, I know what it's like to be up in front of 35 years I spent as a state employee. So a humble state servant I was. So I do thank you for being here. And I have personal knowledge of this project. I was not the engineer on it. I was not involved in it. I got drug into a lot of meetings. That project sat on my desk. I was involved in the permit side of things, on that side of things. But that said, I just want to put in context for a lot of people listening that may not problems with this project. And, you know, I can't even go into all the stuff in your head. I know I've got in my head. That's not what I'm here to talk about. I'm here to talk about the nuts and bolts that the Board of Supervisors knows about, the previous Board of Supervisors. You know, everybody has sympathy for this project. As you come northbound on Latrobe Road and go up towards Eldorado Hills Boulevard, under the underpass, we've got one lane that funnels into, that goes directional north and south, north. So when you come under that, the only heads up that you have is that overhead sign as you are already in those two lanes that are dedicated right turn lanes for Highway 50 westbound. Nobody argues that's a complete disaster. When El Dorado County was doing this project, they pulled out funding and changed the plans and did not go back to the CTC for review of it. How do I know this? I know because I was in those meetings. So that's the little dirty secret that a lot of people don't know. Nobody's blaming you guys. You weren't here for that. But what we're left with is this huge problem where we have one lane coming northbound on Latrobe going into El Dorado Hills Boulevard. And if I commuted that daily, so when you try to get into commute, it's a S show where we've got 3 lanes trying to convert over and dodge in. You've got angry people ready to do road rage. You've got confused people not knowing what to do. It's bad. And I know the board they know it. I feel for them. There's no easy answer because like you said, they took the funding out. Where did that funding go? So what I wanted to tie in, John, you made some excellent comments, is, and we're gonna pick this up in context later in our talk about this appeal. This is what we're saying. Our appeal is not about one little project. It's about where's the accountability? Where is the transparency? We want the county to start showing these, okay, this funding got moved. Maybe there's a really good reason it did. Also-
Tara, can you hold your microwave a little further away? Because we're
Yes.
getting a lot of feedback.
All right, how about right here? Right here?
Yeah,
Right? Okay.
thank you.
All right, so geometrically, we have some huge problems down there that I have seen some really bad accidents, really bad. A lot of us have. So really bad accidents. It's not a good situation. Number two, the original plan did not call for free right turns from that with pedestrian ramps on them. The county changed the plans, did not go back to the CTC and change the plans. You cannot do that. That is not legal. That is not allowed. You have to go back anytime you change more than, it used to be $15,000. I don't know what it is now. They changed millions of dollars. They took those free rights that were supposed to be a flyover and now we're stuck with these, which John made some good points. We're stuck with these, we see all the kids now riding their bikes across these free rights where there's no visibility. These people are screaming around the corner off these circular ramps. There's no stop sign. There's no yield. You wouldn't do that. The chance to fix it was when Caltrans had those plans that it wasn't a Caltrans project. It was a local agency project. That's what a lot of people get confused. A lot of people are confused that everything on the state right of way, everything on Highway 50 is a state project. So I know you know this, but it's not. A lot of these projects are local agency. So they're and the state does a lot of engineering and support services, and the funding goes back and forth. Long story short, we got a major problem here with free rights off we got pedestrian ramps that are illegally there that should not be there. We've got plans that were someone, and I'm not going to say who, but someone with their own accountability changed the whole interchange, moved the funding. We don't know where the funding is. There was no justification of what we were told that it was supposed to be interim. That was 20 years ago.
Well,
Okay, let me wrap this up. So I think I just want you guys to be aware, there's just no secret from the county not knowing this. The county knows well aware. Last thing I want to say, we have the pedestrian overcrossing was paid for federal, state, and county dollars. That funding is there. So when you say that there's no funding for that pedestrian, I've seen it. It's paid for. So if they moved it without going back to the CTC, that's a problem. And we should all know about it. All right. Anyway, we'll have a discussion on sidebar. Thank you.
so, and again, I know we've had, what is identified too, right? Your agency's not engineering that, but you are trying to find funds. You help with controlling that. So, but Raphael's been here with his team and they've explained, they are going to add an additional northbound lane. Whether that's enough, we can debate about that later. But to Woody's point, it's like, they go out, look for the money. The county does the engineering and the planning. If it's deficient, then we need to identify it with them. So,
This phase of project is approved by the CPC. Currently, they reviewed the current design. Bill Caltrans approved it. So this is, this last phase, phase 2B, has been approved by the CPC. All the plans.
okay.
I'm not
So,
gonna-
Real quick question. Is this the
Hey,
phase
Tara,
that was
Tara,
approved 20 years ago?
Tara, it's our meeting for everyone.
No, yeah,
We're-
yeah,
We have 3 minutes for comments.
Okay, sorry.
But,
I'll
that-
get with you. I just want to know when this was approved by the CTC. That's all.
Okay. We're trying to conduct a meeting and I know you have a lot of questions, but come on. Larry, you've been waiting forever.
Yes, I have a question and maybe this is where can I go? But it's related to the LLADs. So there's a landscape and lighting assessment districts here in El Dorado Hills. And every kind of village, right, has something like this. Some of them are old, like the one I live in. And the lighting, all the lighting, street lighting is paid by the LLAD instead of watering the grass that we would kind of like to have instead. But anyway, but the fixtures are 40-year-old sodium vapor, whatever they were way back when. And the group at the CSD say they would have to, the heads would have to be replaced. You can't just relamp it with LED lights. It's a very expensive process to like replace it and upgrade it. Is there any place in your budget here somewhere? Didn't think so. But we're stuck with them
Yeah,
forever,
So
or we're stuck with them forever, or what can we do?
I think, the county, not sure who manages the
Susie.
Okay, so there are lighting districts up in El Dorado, town of El Dorado that the county works on. So it's not uniform across the county, that the CSD would be the agency.
So,
Yeah.
so maybe Greg could tell me how to get in touch with them or something. I thought maybe there was a state fund. I mean, it sounds like something the state would be able to get rid of those lights that, were the big energy hogs.
Maybe.
Given that I work in the state funding realm.
Come one more.
Any type of opportunity to improve efficiency. There are some old power hungry.
Yeah.
Energy. Lighting source LED that
It's got to be somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
well, okay. Ben, if you do it in the room and then I got to get to Joel, but we got to get Woody going. So,
Just a very quick follow-up on that. So I think PG&E actually has programs to assist with that. And Highland Hills just did this. They replaced all their heads. They don't have an LLAD. They have something else.
It's a
Yeah.
zone of benefit.
Yeah, that's what it is, zone of benefit.
Yeah.
And so I can put you in touch. I know somebody who helped lead that. So, yeah.
let's see. Can you do it quick?
So John kind of brought up the connector, but the JPA, are you not getting funding? I thought we contributed funding as part of that partnership. And I'm just wondering how we're gonna eventually get that done.
The county.
Like the county, yeah.
So, Derek Newman, I'm the director of the JPA. He and I go back to DC every year and advocate for various projects. That one will likely be a federal grant application or potentially earmark or something like that.
Okay.
We work under the county's kind of CIP and the long range planning with their travel demand model. And that project just isn't in that near term kind of window for us to funding for through the state or the local programs. I will also say, candidly, that project is essentially, to some extent, the poster child of what the state doesn't want to fund anymore.
Right.
New capacity, opening up access to areas. So, but going to the state asking for funding.
Okay. Just
Can
curious.
can I just jump in a minute? I know that the county pays the JPA a certain amount of money every year just to be part of the plan. And I've often said, what do we get out of that except membership in the JPA to go forward on something that neighbors and people and also APAC have said is flawed, okay? And it seems to me we're just, that old saying, throwing good money after bad. So that's where that goes.
I promise me, oh,
One more.
okay, I gotta get Joel in here, but go ahead.
We had a board meetings and we had Justin come up and explain because we had the same questions last year. And John, you were at the meeting, I believe, when we asked, the JPA, what are we getting for our money? Because we haven't seen an inch of asphalt. I think we pay 60 grand a year to be a member.
Yeah.
Something like that, 50. And we just approved it a couple months ago. They have funding and are building a bike lane from the county line up to, forget the name of the street. It's before Latrobe, but he indicated that they have a design they paid for the design for the roadway improvements. But there's no money for construction. What I'm kind of hoping is you look at Sac County, you look at Kevin Kiley and Congress, Doris Matsui down at Elk Grove, they get earmarks. And a lot of the funding, stop me if I'm wrong, Woody, a lot of the money that they use for that road is from federal earmarks from their congressman. We have Tom McClintock, like him or hate him, he won't do earmarks. So we're hoping that we're going to get a new congressional rep for El Dorado Hills. We can approach that new person, whether it's Matsui or Vang, I think her name is. We can hopefully get some earmarks for that road.
Yeah, I've talked to Derek in the past about that. And he always says, do you know Congressman Clinton? Yes, I do. He's not doing that. And so, but he is insistent that the only money we're going to get to complete the El Dorado County part of it would probably likely be federal funds. And as an example, they did the design and we did pay money and and the design's pretty old, to be honest. And he was very explicit. Said, hey, listen, the county's very focused on what the costs are, what the maintenance costs are going to be, not just getting it built. He said that, they had designed it with landscaping and the county came back and said, we can't pay for landscaping. It's going to be stamped concrete. So elements like that, we know it's expensive. It's federal money. We have a congressman who is not inclined to do that. Now the districts have been changed. We'll have a different Congress represented. So
Gerrymandered out of El Dorado Hills. He doesn't.
yeah, settle down though, because
right,
we'll start up something else tonight.
That's a totally different issue.
And
APAC is non-political.
Supervisor Ferraro, I've seen those plans. And besides the noise, the way they are directing traffic, for example, from Stonebriar, they're making them make a right-hand turn, come to the gate at Four Seasons, make a U-turn, and then turn around and go the other way. The whole thing is a mess. And I hate to say it, 20 years ago, my daughter wanted to buy a house that was right on White Rock, and I told her no because of the noise. And she says to me 20 years later, hey, Dad, they still haven't come down that road and done anything with it. So I've been taking a lot of personal abuse because of that.
So we have one question online, and I promise this is it. So Joel, you should be able to unmute.
I believe I am.
There you are, Joel. Thank you for waiting forever.
I did not hear but maybe 3 words of what he said. Could you get him another microphone or change the batteries in that one? Or give him some lessons from the other person
it's
talking
so
very
odd because we
loud?
could hear it in the room, but the next speakers we'll have them eat the microphone, but Woody's essentially done at this point. So, oh yeah, so I have Woody's contact information, Joel. So if there's anything pressing that you want us to follow up on.
No, it's just a matter of not being able to hear the presentation.
We will try a different microphone over there. Thank you.
I'm done.
It's green. It's so. Yeah. Have your lines? Yeah. So no, I wanted to thank you again. We were looking forward to you coming, and this is something that that a lot of people don't consider or understand. Hopefully, there's some information we've shared, and if there's something that you feel is important that you want to have you or Jerry, whoever, to come back and talk about.
Just feel free to contact us anytime. We're a very small shop of office of 5 folks. So
we're all, most of us are lots of. All right, well, thank you again.
Thank you, Raphael.
Up this forward, sorry. We'll get past our stuff. And now, you gonna go now? Yeah. Okay.
Test. Singer. I'll make this quick, and I don't have a ton. You brought up the Green Valley Apartments. Great. I mean, I don't think any of us want it. But do we deny it and get sued like we did with the Native Directions things? I mean, how much money are we going to spend fighting the state of California? It seems like anything that any kind. This is statewide. There's no municipality happy with the direction the state's going. We were on a conference call today with CSAC talking about the governor's wildfire liability reform and how that's going to affect municipalities. They don't seem to care about local jurisdictions. So anyways, do any of you have VHRs or rent short-term rentals? If you don't, I won't bore you, but it's going to be on the agenda for Tuesday. We're going to hopefully amend the ordinance that was passed a couple of years ago. Something happening locally in El Dorado Hills is the glassy wing sharpshooter. I spoke about this a few times. We're losing the battle. For those of you that don't know, it's an invasive pest, and it causes Pierce disease in wine grapes, and it devastates. It'll devastate the wineries if it gets up the hill. It's pretty prolific right now in Serrano and in the area where there's a lot of crepe myrtles and green trees, and basically everything that grows in Serrano, these bugs live in. We have been working with the state and receiving quite a bit of money. I think we're up to $5 million of state funding from the Department of Agriculture so far, trying to treat residences. And they treat it two ways, either by spraying the trees, spraying the bushes, or injecting the soil at the roots. Problem is, we need compliance. And our agriculture department is not getting a lot of voluntary compliance. In fact, there's over 2,000 homes that have not even responded to our requests. So we are going to consider, I thought it was going to be on the agenda for Tuesday, it's not, but implementing a assumed consent model to treat these homes for this pest, because we do not want it to get up the hill. And the warm weather really stimulates their growth. We didn't have a cold winter this year. We were hoping over the winter that we'd have some cold weather, maybe a little bit of snow and freezing temperatures to slow their growth down. But we had a pretty mild winter, and so they weren't really affected too much. Like I said, predominantly it was pretty isolated up in the Serrano area, but it's south of the freeway now. It's going into Folsom. They haven't really found any going up the hill, which is kind of surprising. Maybe there's not enough traps up there, or I don't think they're affected by any altitude. But kind of segue into my next thing. We have a new agriculture commissioner, Jessica Fowler. Cindy, help me out. Who's the prior? Leanne Mila. Thank you. Retired, and so we just hired Jessica Fowler. She literally started Monday, and she was the ag commissioner in Calaveras County. Comes with a lot of experience. She worked here previously for El Dorado County, and so she's got her hands full with this glassy wing sharpshooter. And then again, if the state stops funding it, we don't have any money to fight it, to eradicate it. So we're really dependent on the state for this funding. As you all know, the CSD issued for the cityhood a negative declaration. On our agenda on Tuesday, we have a memo from the county response, and we'll decide. We're going to vote on whether to release that or send that memo on to the CSD to incorporate in the public comment. I've read it. It's pretty generic. There's two issues that talk about part of the boundaries for the city would encompass some rural region in addition to community region, and that will not. I don't think a city can have a rural region there, so there would have to be some rezoning required, and then there's a discussion about the arena numbers, which could be pretty impactful. And for those of you who don't know about arena, it's a low-income housing that the state again is mandating, and the county and most other jurisdictions are way behind on our affordable housing. We are going to skip that. You've all probably heard of the Marshall tax or emergency preparedness and healthcare access, welfare prevention, sales tax that's going to be on the ballot this November. I'm not sure how I'm going to vote, but one thing that's important to know is the county is responsible for managing that program, collecting the taxes and administering funds, and we're not going to get a dime for it. We weren't consulted in that discussion, so we're going to be burdened with that responsibility with no funding. In June, we talked about the board. As I think I mentioned before, I mentioned before in this meeting, me bringing forward a Costco tax benefit for El Dorado Hills for to keep a portion of the taxes from Costco if it actually in fact opens, and use that money just specifically for roads, primarily maintenance in El Dorado Hills. The board supported me talking, and staff is determining a way to come up with a figure and how to collect that, and it'll be brought again. That's probably when the real discussion will start with our board. It's like they support it, but how much are they going to be willing to give up? We repealed the tobacco ordinance for the third time last month. The Silver Valley construction, I want to give kudos to DOT. That construction of Silver Valley southbound was closed for a couple months because it was, a lot of people thought it was Costco, but it was a sewage line that Parker Development had to install for the new homes that they're building now in that area. And so the commitment was to have the road opened, have the southbound lanes open before the school year started, and it made that deadline. Clarksville crossing is still closed, and I don't know the duration of that. And then lastly, anybody familiar with Prop 45? Prop 45. I would love, you give it some thought over the next few days, to shoot me an email on your thoughts on it, because I'm being asked to support it at CSAC next week, and I'm really confused. It's a there's proponents and opponents, and it's basically the goal is to streamline CEQA litigation and speed up like municipal projects for municipalities. I mean, you hear different arguments. One side says it undermines local control. The other side says it enhances local control. I was on a conference call with CSAC a couple weeks ago, last week, and they had presentations by both the opponents and proponents. And the one thing that really kind of resonated with me from the opponents of this is they said, if this passes, we're going to take away power from the state legislature and give it to the voters. And when I was originally reading this thing, I'm thinking, well, this is just streamlining, more building, because it's the building organizations that want to support it. But that statement, that was really kind of telling to me. It's like, personally, I really don't want to give any more authority to our state legislature. So if you're inclined, I would love an opinion if anybody has time to review it. So with that, questions? Comments?
Comment is thanks for waiting.
Yeah,
Melrose, did the board vote on something for Melrose for any time?
No, I just found out about it just now, so I guess it's an item to, it looks like Parker Developments is applying for the Melrose tax now. I don't know if it's for what it's about. I'm gonna have to find out before Tuesday, if it's for a new development or existing. I have no idea what it's about. But I guess
That's a very
there's two
important,
items on it.
that's a very important
We
thing.
haven't approved it.
All right.
It's on the, agenda for Tuesday.
I'd like to say something about Costco. I really think you should get out to the people what money will actually come from the sale of things that Costco sells that would go towards El Dorado Hills. You know, a good portion of their stuff is not taxed, and I think people are under the assumption that everything is taxed. And I think you guys got to get out in front of that and let people know what money would actually be available on that.
Is food, a lot of food or all of food is not taxed.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I met with, Cindy and I met with the councilwoman who, in Folsom, who has that area where Costco is. She asked me about Costco, what's happening with it. And her thought was, it is a huge economic engine for the city of Folsom. Take that with a grain of salt. So we'll get some property tax and 1.25% of sales taxes, but
And
what are
two-
their sales taxes gonna be? That's the question.
Well, the gas and the,
And
yeah,
gas and.
yeah.
gas.
So when I was on one of the stakeholder groups because for Bass Lake Action, when Costco started, and in 2019, the estimate was between $1 to $2 million in sales tax, and that's no food, just sales of products and sales of fuel, and then services, glasses and whatever else. So that was in 2019. They don't have a hard number that we've seen since then.
The things I've heard is that a good store makes 300 to 400 million a year. I don't know if that includes gas or not. I think it's just the box. But if let's say we get 1% or let's say half that is food, so we're down to 150 million, 200 million, and you get 1% of that.
So it's
a couple $1 million.
Yeah, 1 to 2.
And,
Yeah.
and gas and then property tax. But I got to be honest with you. We haven't heard. I mean, nothing's been said. They've been silent for the last couple of months.
Yeah, and so hopefully a thoughtful fiscal analysis will accompany what comes before the planning commission, and then if it gets to the board, it'll be there too. So
My third, they were talking about the boundaries of the new proposed city. And I believe that they did not include Marble Valley. And I don't understand how you could not include Marble Valley as being part
John,
well,
part of it.
Well,
that's it.
LAFCO.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
as far as cityhood, if it was on a ballot in front of me right now, I don't know how I'd vote. Okay, so honest to God, I'm totally impartial on this.
John, the original.
The CSD didn't put it in their boundary, Marble Valley. LAFCO wants it in there.
Also,
So we have two different boundaries that are kind of in dispute.
but also the CSD did not put in the business park as well. That was not in the CSD plan. LAFCO has, in their letter, and in the application process discussion, they have requested that the business park be part of the cityhood map.
Okay, can I just interject on all three of your questions, well, John? First of all, and I'll go in the reverse order. In terms of cityhood, the negative declaration is now in a 30-day comment period.
on Monday.
It is very important that people take a look at that because the negative declaration assumes that both Marble Valley and Business Park is part of the negative declaration. And so I think it's very important that people get their comments in by that point. I would hope, quite frankly, that CSD only gave a 30-day comment period, something that's important. Waiting another 30 days for people to really look at that very large document is probably not unreasonable. And I hope they would consider, if the number of comments, which I understand have been very few, that they actually, people take a look at something that's going to be fundamental, because there's a lot of commitments made in that document that will bear on what the new city will have to live with in terms of a whole series of issues, including, and I guess the essence of the whole document, negative declaration, is that there will not be any new environmental impacts as a result of the changing of government. Now, that would mean, as part of that, that they would then inherit all 7 Pacific plans and a lot of other things that exist. And so it's important that people really understand what this thing really looks like. And I encourage everybody to take a look, anybody in this community that is interested in cityhood or not, are opposed to it, to really look at that document, because as it moves forward, it will be the document that will be operational moving forward to LAFCO.
Yeah, as I mentioned, it's on Legistar right now. It's the memo that we,
Yeah.
a company called Ascent Consulting.
Yeah.
That did an independent evaluation of the environmental impacts. And they, 2 things that they came up with, the rural region and then possibly the Vita. And even having enough land in El Dorado Hills to build whatever SACOG is going to allocate to
Well,
El Dorado Hills.
the thing about the RENA numbers is that 40.7% of the allocation is already in El Dorado Hills. And so those properties are largely mapped out right now. Whether anybody ever does anything with it is the question, but what it changes in the calculation for SACOG.
So I don't know if that, so I had a discussion about that today.
I just-
it's that, it is not, that 40.7 was what SACOG is saying.
Yes.
They would probably give to El Dorado Hills. We haven't allocated
Uh,
40% to El Dorado Hills.
I read it getting into the car, so
Yeah,
I'll read it again, but
I
yeah.
talked to long range planners, I had a couple questions on that document. And 'cause they do mention 40%.
Yeah.
On El Dorado Hills. So right now, we're allocated, what?
I've already forgotten.
4,800 homes,
Yeah.
countywide. But we haven't, as a county, there's nothing that says we're giving El Dorado Hills 30%, 20%, 40%.
Long range planning says they have a map. I've never seen
They
it.
have a map, it's just a map of El Dorado
Yeah,
Hills.
but they've identified potential parcels because,
Yeah. But I don't think there's actual parcels identified.
potential is what I think it's, yeah.
And then the number would come from SACOG
Yes.
once we become a city.
Yeah. Or we don't. So,
We don't.
yeah. So thank you for staying very late. So, all right, you can leave it on. Go ahead and leave it on.
Mr. Ferraro? I'm sorry. I did. Yeah, excuse me. You, sorry about that. You mentioned Proposition 45, I believe. Is that correct? Which I know nothing about. Zero, zilch, zippo. Is there any way that you, Cindy, or anyone on your staff could send us some information on that when you get an opportunity?
We can send it tomorrow, and I'll send you what CSAC sent us.
Okay.
And I think there's arguments opposing it and opposing it. So you be for it?
Okay.
Essentially, builders, developers, like, shorten, and I speak from, I've done this for 30 years. Shortening review time, which, Greg, I just want to give you perspective, really, I want to kind of review it, like, 3 sentences. It would be a disaster, because when I lived in, we couldn't even get the engineers to turn around the documents in 30 days. So we'd get plans that we would need them to turn around and fix or make corrections, and we wouldn't even get those into the plan. Sometimes years.
Yes.
These are pushed through as they go.
I don't think it's short C, I think it's a short litigation period.
No, I just read it.
Did you?
Just read it. It's short. 30 days. I used to do this for a living. I had to review the projects for a living. Owners, the engineer. Just not. And the reason they do is because they know if they can put this roadblock in, then they can get a lot through without having to change conditions. And needing a structure, and that gets can gets down to the rest. They have to do it in the long run.
Tara, can I stop you for a moment? Can I ask Supervisor Ferraro, you have all of our emails for the people up on the board. Would you send us the link to that particular piece and that we could look at it?
Or whatever you want to send, you can send it to me. Yeah, I can distribute it. So however you want to do it. So so that too. So we need to move ahead to our next item on the agenda, which is, and let me share it so that we get it all on the screen. It's hard to drive. Let's see. There and there it should flash. We're gonna get blinded. Come on. Here we go. Are you guys ready? Do you guys want to all be up here? Do you want to take turns? How do you want to do it? How do you want to, Gary, do you want to go first or? Okay. Okay, thank you. So I should say this now. So we're going to hear about the appeal of Serrano M5 that was approved at the Planning Commission. And unique case, we have 3 appellants that have appealed this on various reasons we're going to hear about tonight. And they asked to be able to give an update to where they're at, what the board had sort of determined when they first heard the appeal, when it might be coming back to the board, because they asked for some items from staff and from the CSD. And so this is an informational update so that everyone can hear what it is. And again, and Gary and I talked about this last night, is that we want to remind everyone, right, at APAC, as volunteers, we don't appeal projects decisions. We don't litigate because we're volunteers. And when we start getting involved in the litigation or appeals, we expose the volunteers potentially to litigation the other way against us as individuals. And I'll remind everybody right now, APAC is funded by nobody but the people sitting up here. So, and we've been doing it since 1981. So that's why we generally don't do that. And also because a lot of the appeals have political impacts and we try to be apolitical as best we can, which is not to say we won't provide comments, but we won't be the proponents of an appeal or litigation. So with that, we have people here that are very well versed in what this is, and they're very good reasons for why they did this. And we're going to get the update tonight. So Gary King, we're here. Yeah, probably is. There you go.
Citizens appealed this Serrano 5 decision. It went through the planning commission. I turned it off here.
You could use this one also.
Can they get closer to the mic, please?
So I've
Thank you, Joel.
got a couple slides to give a background and context for this M5 Serrano appeal. This was reviewed, I think, by APAC. I don't know when you guys did it, but it went to the planning commission.
We reviewed the 20 home project that got rejected. And then we didn't have enough capacity to review this as it came forward with the back to the 10 home.
Okay, so this went to the planning commission. I don't know, Bob, was this March or something like that? And so it was approved in a 4-1 vote. There was a lot of what a number of us felt were procedural deficiencies or defects. There were traffic mitigation procedures. You can go to the next slide. So this was originally, this M5 was 10 homes that are at the very northwest corner of Serrano on Appian Way. The appeal issues that we thought were worth we're appealing to the Board of Supervisors. They're relying on a CEQA exemption based on a 40-year-old EIR, and things have changed. And we felt that that needed a closer review. Density was changed in this region from being primarily rural to now much smaller lots. And there were traffic considerations that were not taken into effect in the engineering report, including controversy around a 4-way stop sign and so on. Among other things were the park obligations that Serrano may or may not have fulfilled. And so we wanted a closer look at those, and the county asked CSD for a bunch of information. So the net, the Board of Supervisors decided to extend the repeal till the end of September, and it will be kept open, and we will have a chance to go back and with the information in front of the Board of Supervisors on the traffic, the enhanced traffic study and the park obligations, they'll be able to make a decision hopefully by the end of September. So that's that. Next slide. But what are the real issues? Because I think all of the appellants here didn't feel like the issue was about the 10 homes, that these same issues apply to upcoming projects, certainly C2 and D1, but it even extends probably beyond Serrano. And C2 and D1 are much larger. They're together, I think there are 100 homes. And if you include A14, which has been approved and is now almost in the construction phase, you've got a lot of homes in this Serrano build-out. So we're asking the question, and I think Dean brought this up earlier, and Tara has alluded to it. Does the county have a process by which they can ensure that the developer obligations and the specific plan requirements are being adhered to as these projects are being developed? And it's pretty clear that they don't, and that there's going to be a lot of obligations that are missed. As Dean said, it's very complicated. These are very old agreements, very old developer plans. There's nobody really looking at the details. Details shift over time. Obligations have shifted, in this case, from Serrano to CSD for building out those parks. So we're asking the county to look at its procedures for reviewing these specific plan requirements going forward as these projects, like these Serrano projects, get completed. So we're expanding the appeal process to at least include the same issues going forward to C2 and D1 within Serrano, and then probably expanding beyond that, if not within this appeal, within a parallel process, to look at the county processes for ensuring this governance is in place to ensure that specific plan obligations are being met, not only within Serrano, but beyond. Okay, so next slide. So to that end, as most of you know, I have some experience on the grand jury. I like to get things in writing and documented rather than getting up in front of the Board of Supervisors for 10 minutes and having my hot air go into another's. So I put everything down on paper. So I've issued a report with facts and findings about the county processes. And we have recommendations for how the county should move forward in reviewing project plans like this, like M5, like C2, and like D1 going forward, to make sure that all of the developer obligations are met, that they're transparent to the public, so you don't have a bunch of pissed off individual citizens like me and Tara and Dean having to go out for every single approval cycle, and that there's a more rigorous and transparent process that can be adhered to. So to this end, you can screen capture it and see the full 25-page report. I tried to make it very succinct. It documents some of the procedural failures and the recommendations that we have for mostly county staff to implement some of this transparency going forward, and our specific recommendations for this appeal process. I think it's very succinct. I shared it with only a few people. Bob Williams said this is too long. Nobody's going to read it, but it's my disposition to get things down in writing. And what my objective is to get some buy-in from community leaders, and then put this before the Board of Supervisors, or at least to the CAO, and have staff start to review it and consider it as they would maybe a grand jury report's recommendations, and in time see if it makes sense. Because I think there are huge benefits to the county for providing this level of transparency and process review for the
Yes.
so with that, next slide, I'm almost winding up here. So what specifically am I asking for here? I'm not speaking to CSD. I'm not speaking to our team. They can come up and augment this with their perspectives, but I'm asking for the county to provide a comprehensive specific plan review of the implementation and have all the obligations been met.
Right.
Because they're having to ask CSD what the status is of certain things and so on. So the county needs to be the primary driver of the implementation of the developer agreement and its compliance. we need to adopt a Serrano completion plan for the remaining major phases, what is going to be in place by when, so that we know that the impacts are going to be mitigated not only by M5, but the couple hundred homes that will be built subsequently. More specifically, for CSD's benefit, we're asking for an implementation and binding plan for Village J, Lot H, Bass Lake Park. I will speak not as a CSD board member, but I was underwhelmed with the response that CSD gave to the county on that project, because it didn't include a timeline or a specific obligation for the completion of the build out or even the start of the construction, which I think the county was really looking for. So I think that will be a factor going forward. We want to reconcile to see if the Serrano Park impact fee credits and discounts which have been granted to Serrano Associates are still relevant, based on some of the changes and obligations that have been made over the years. And so I want to revisit that, which the county drives, as part of the developer agreement. We're not getting, the CSD is not getting any park maintenance funds from the new development from these 100 homes. We're going to ask that they put the remaining homes into the district-wide maintenance CFD that is in place by this CSD, rather than putting it into the inactive Serrano LLID, which generates no revenue for the CSD. We're already very much impacted by LLID revenue for the maintenance of parks. So we want to fix that for the last couple hundred homes. And we want to create a specific plan dashboard and public reporting mechanism, because these things generally are in place, but they don't have a year-by-year kind of review process for these plans that are at least transparent. So these are some of the things that we're asking. These are relevant to CSD. The county needs to drive some of them, or at least review their procedures to that end. So that's, I think, all I've got. We hope people can get behind this a little bit and support us in our efforts going forward to make some changes through this appeal process elsewhere. Dean, you want to come up and or Tara?
Let's just down with the end.
So you'll all be available to answer questions.
And we'll all be available to answer.
Okay, if you want to go ahead, Tara, and then we'll do questions maybe at the end and when Dean speaks. And so I will remind everybody, so Gary had the QR code on this presentation. The presentation will be on our website by tomorrow morning. So, and the link will be posted as well. It's a little bit too tall. There you go.
All right, can you hear me? Or my feedback, or
No, you're good.
too close, too far? Hi, my name is Tara McCann. My background is in, there. I know I can't get it right. It's like this is the county. Oh, sorry. How about that?
That's good.
Better? Okay. All right, I want to start by saying, I'm going to be brief too, very short. This presentation is really just to share with the community why we're appealing this project. It's not about a single project. This project magnifies really what, and it's not finger pointing or blaming anyone either. It's really just putting the spotlight on the challenges our county has in these discretionary projects, ministerial projects. As Supervisor Ferrera alluded to, we've got the low-income housing. This is not about low-income housing, but there's a lot of variables in projects with our counties that the review process is just, now they're trying to shorten it, and it's extreme just trying to do the review process on a regular time frame, as I've mentioned that I used to do. So I want to really highlight that why I got involved was originally I saw the project was Village M. Serrano Village M was described in the general, excuse me, not the general plan, was described in the 40-year-old document, the
Specific plan, yeah.
thank you, El Dorado Hills specific plan, as 37 ranchettes on gravel road on that north side of Serrano. There were supposed to be 37 ranchettes to give a buffer between the north end of El Dorado Hills, that area, and the reason being, as I'm not here to impart all my knowledge as a transportation engineer, but was to minimize the circulation problems that are occurring now. Because when you change that density, these internal densities in Serrano, we're not saying that they're not allowed to do, or we're objecting to density transfers. But when you change and you add these density transfers and then you don't analyze them, you don't analyze the circulation, now we're looking at that back gate of Serrano, which was originally supposed to be 37 ranchettes. We would have only had a couple hundred cars a day, maybe a couple hundred. I mean, the parcel that is in question that was brought up, that this 10 houses go, would have been one ranchette with one car a day, maybe 2 cars a day. Well, but now it's not about 10 houses. It's about the process of throwing these density transfers and not doing the off-site mitigations, not doing the off-site review. And when Raphael was here, some of you had heard me say that, Raphael, we have a problem. We need to be better at reviewing off-site improvements or off-site infrastructure, conditioning that off-site infrastructure. So years ago, when we were reviewing the zoning ordinance, this was really a big topic because the county wasn't conditioning off-site improvements for these developments. And what was happening is, think about it. If we put in developments and then don't call out or condition any off-site improvements, and then 10, 20 years goes by, and or less than that, 5 years goes by, they sell all the houses, the traffic comes, guess who gets to pay for the infrastructure needed now? It's us, the residents, that this gets kicked down, the can gets kicked down the road. So that's why conditioning the projects up front and requiring the developers to put these in is so important. That's why we have APAC. So what Gary did, this excellent 25-page report. I read it in 15 minutes. It's not a big read. It's a great report. It is what you are doing. It's what our APAC is doing. And he put it in a format that is so...
She's running for mayor.
It's an excellent template that APAC should use and the county should use. So anyway, I'm getting a little off tangent here, but where I wanted to go with this is so I got involved because we've got this problem because there's 10 houses on this parcel. The developer went in and graded these parcels on a landlocked piece of land that had no deeded access, that the developer stated was allowed because they had this specific plan, the 40-year-old document. Well, one, you can't approve a project. It's in the county documents. You can't approve a project that is landlocked with no deed easement. So in June, planning commission approved this project with the homes, and that's what we said, well, hey, where are you going to put the easement? And in the document, it's DOT said in their words, and I'm not paraphrase it, but we will define that at a later time and directed by El Dorado County DOT. You can't do that. If you look at legally the county's documents that we have, you cannot state that you're going to determine at a later time engineering that is critical for meeting approval of a project, and that would be the access in and out. And even highlighting it was the developer's own traffic engineering plan stated that there was a major site distance issues because of Appian Way having inherent site distance issues based on its geometry, because the road is steep and it also has vertical and horizontal curves. So it's a really bad location to put mirrored accesses. And then on top of that, you've got two private gated accesses that would meet right up to the public road. So you essentially have two private gated accesses that would be queued, that would be controlled. Traffic going up and down would have to be queued or controlled by everyone going in and out of the surrounding gates. How do you do that? How do you do that? Years ago, when I was working as an engineer, I was involved in a project with Placer County, similar project where there was a country club, I think as you go out towards Lincoln, and I believe it's in the vehicle code, but I think you can't have an intersection that has private queues and a public queue. Now, don't quote me on this, but I think it's even in the vehicle code. And you can understand why. These are common sense things. To have a queue of these private gates, some certain times of year, as we see, and we've asked the county not to review this until school's back in, the traffic's back. Summer is like a ghost town up there. But now that school's back in, you're going to see, we see traffic backed up all the way to Silver Valley from that Serrano gate, because traffic, vendors, it's typically that gate is used as vendors, contractors, guests that are waiting to get in. And so you come up to that location with a blind curves, vertical horizontal curve. I mean, that potential for rear ends, for side swipes, for conflicting traffic is exponential. And so that's why we're saying this project should never be approved. Projects should never be approved without looking at the offsite conditions. This project called out that there was flaws at the offsite conditions, and stated we're going to take care of them later as directed by the county DOT, but had no engineering plans to determine that and so you can't approve a project without having solid engineering plans. And I can pull it out, but I read that at the planning commission. It's stated in our own manuals. Yeah. Okay, sorry. So, and part of this is, there's so much in my head. I've done this for 35 years, that me trying to express why I'm appealing this is it's not just about these 10 homes. What we're trying to say is, for 30 years that I've been reviewing projects with APAC, this really puts a spotlight on what we're fighting, and I don't want to use the word fighting, because we really want to partner with the county. I worked with the county employees up there, the staff. There's great people up there that work up there. I had a lot of great friends that worked up there, hardworking people. I think that I don't want to use the word fighting, but we want to partner with the county to get this across, that we want projects to be reviewed off-site before they're approved. We want exactly how Gary put the report together. We want transparency. We want a dashboard that we can go to and see what's happening. What's the precipice for this being approved? So I'll just leave it there. But this is bigger than just 10 houses. It's not focused just solely on this project. Although this project is, we need to have a solution for this project. It's not to us to come up with it. I'm not the engineer for the county. It's for county DOT, and that's what.
You get your 10.
Yeah,
I mean, I know we got Dean,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
have questions.
I mean,
So
the last sentence is that we'd like more involvement from county DOT prior to approval of these projects. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Tara.
Appreciate you guys listening.
Okay.
And this is for you guys. So this really is for you guys. I'm spending the time, my energy, my money. It's really for the community. So
Thank you. Do you need to lift that up, Dean, or you okay? You.
Fellas,
Yeah.
first, thank you for allowing us. Appreciate it, the audience. I've been doing this for a little while now. I think I mentioned to you earlier, litigation resulting in a favorable outcome in California Supreme Court. As of today, it's 10 years old. This boils down to a really simple, but so simple it's not obvious problem. The mitigations weren't mitigated. I was quoted in Sacramento Bee. There's not a public bathroom, a pickleball court, a lighted sports court. I mean, the list goes on. There's no recreation in Serrano. 5,000 homes and all the people that go with it. My in-laws still live in Serrano. Where do they play pickleball? They go to Heritage. I mean, it's ridiculous that we are such an affluent community. We don't recognize the impacts we're putting on each other because we don't see how all of these things fit together. My in-laws, down the hill past a waterfall that provides no recreational use. It's a great visual pleasure for the Parker headquarters. That was our first public park, Village Green. The second one you can't hardly find, but it's Allen Lindsay and it's the extension of the Oak Meadow School. And the third one we've yet to have delivered. What's wild is in the middle 90s when this specific plan was developed, the requirement was that Parker put in the park system, period. All the parks. And the mix-up, if there was a mix-up, was that the neighborhood parks could be public or private. But the district parks and the community parks had to be public, and there's a explicit requirement for that. In exchange for that, because the CSD did not have a park impact fee in the middle 90s, they brought that on shortly thereafter. In exchange for that requirement to put in the entire park system, the park development component of park impact fees was not charged to Parker Development Company to this day. Meaning the improvement of parks is not charged in the park impact fee, the development impact fee charged by the county, because they're supposed to put in turnkey parks, all of them. And in 2020, they got out of the last park. The only opportunity for them to really mitigate the remaining recreational use in all of Serrano. I mean, if you go to the promontory, you find all kinds of amenities for a community that's much, much smaller. It doesn't take very much to see that Serrano doesn't mitigate its impacts. And its folks go to all the neighboring communities, which has exacerbated the problem for the CSD because now they're in a battle to keep their LOADs funded because they can't justify what they're doing. 0 to Serrano, 80% specific benefit to promontory, while Serrano people, including myself, go to their splash pads and have birthday parties and sports courts and all that kind of stuff. We'll go a little further and remind you that all the public reports issued by the Department of Real Estate say that there's a Serrano LOAD 17 that can cover community parks that can be operated by the CSD at any time, taken over from the HOA, can be activated. There's really no such thing as a dormant LOAD. Really what you have is a subcontractor, Serrano, homeowners association, mowing and blowing and doing whatever for the CSD, but they failed to get all the property deeded to them because, well, now we find out Parker Development Company was the original engineer who engineered it to themselves. And the subsequent engineer was assigned to Wayne Lowry. I mean, mind-blowing stuff, but I guess we weren't doing stuff right in the middle 90s. Well, we weren't doing stuff right in 2020 either because we let Parker Development Company out of that last park that would mitigate that 5,000 home impact if it was ever possible. And in July of 2019, they were writing that they're willing to do that. Here's the drawing of what they're willing to do. Call it Wonderland, if you will. Turnkey, if the Mello-Roos was sufficient. There's no obligation the Mello-Roos be sufficient. In fact, the documents prove that Mello-Roos, if there was any money, was at best contributable to it. Because the limitation was $2 million adjusted for inflation, and that $2 million had been blown on the first two parks I already described. So the letter writing that if the Mello-Roos was sufficient is a demonstrably false or misleading statement. That had nothing to do with nothing. And the CSD didn't know which end was up because the CEQA lead agency, the county, wasn't going to help them figure it out. So here we are. And I'm going to close on this. The CSD has recorded a land-only transaction. In their books, they haven't recorded that they're getting $3.5 million for a park that would cost them, based on their Nexus study, over $10 million, 2018. That means that we're buying this park twice because the discounts, the ones I told you they didn't have to pay per rooftop, the ones that they don't have to pay on these units or any future units because they continue to get the discount, we try that again. They continue to get the discount when they got out of putting in the last park. So what are they getting a discount for? They didn't deliver the last park. And that $3.5 million, if Joe Harn writes that check someday, that would be a felony. And Joe Harn doesn't argue with me about that, so there'll be an interesting day when we get there. But I will close, like I said, on why do we continue this process whereby we're doing phase after phase of development and not holding the developers accountable for what they're supposed to have been doing? That is verifiably in the records. And so that is what my portion of this appeal is based on, is holding them accountable because they cannot justify getting discounts to this day, parks they didn't finish. Thank you, guys.
All right. So we'll open up the room for questions. And I would observe too, these are things that we have said at APAC when we review projects, that we will cite things that we suspect the mitigations weren't completed, or the nature of the fact that it's a 40-year-old EAR. The approval for a specific plan allows the movement of densities as long as it doesn't exceed the original specific plan totals. But the way the process has worked is that they do tentative maps as they come to the projects to develop them. And it always seems like the developers rely on what was approved unless they want to change it. And if we want to change it, we don't have an opportunity to change it. So it's a one-way street. And it's always been a criticism that APAC members have had. In 2019, when they were talking about J7 at the Bass Lake Overflow, and it's only, well, they're going from 73 houses down to, I think it's 65. It's a very small zero-lot development. Auditor Harn did, in fact, he appealed that approval from the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission asked for, they were very concerned that the conditions of approval from the approved project had not been met. So they asked for staff to review it, and essentially they reviewed it in conjunction with Park Development. And the determination was they had met everything except for the transfer of the public trails. And we can talk about that all night, but the public trail in the document was the CSD would take it, the county would take it, and if neither of them took it, Serrano would keep it under the HOA. There was no funding included with any of that. So of course the CSD did not take it and the county did not take it. So now that's another kerfuffle, and obviously we won't. We're talking about this topic tonight. So, but the Planning Commission asked for that review because they were supposed to do an annual update on the conditions of approval and the development agreement, and there were years where they didn't do it. And the Planning Commission at the time, they said, we don't know even if these things have been done or met. Have we fulfilled all the obligations? So staff did the analysis with the developer, and they determined largely yes, except for that last missing piece, which was the trail system. And that followed like shortly after that nobody would take it. The HOA kept it. So these are similar questions that we've asked in the past. And we point out when we're looking in reviews, say, hey, this looks good now, but in the past, we don't think these things were met. But a lot of things we say get unheard, I guess. But so that's my contribution tonight for this. And I want to thank you guys for coming to do this. Are there any questions in the room? Do you want to start up here, or you're going to go? Are you on?
Gary, quick question for you. One of your slides says what I am asking for. And it was clear that a lot of it also dealt with what the CSD should be getting, so are you getting support from your fellow CSD board members, or is that totally separate and you're just acting as an individual for the best interests of the community as a whole?
Yeah, I have to act as an individual, not as a representative of the board, because it hasn't come before the board as an agendized topic that we can discuss. And then there was just not enough time within the appeal process to get in front of the board, so I decided to do it as an individual. I am asking for things that clearly benefit the CSD.
Yeah.
And that I have discussed with other board members, but not in an organized way like this. So I'm very clear about what I'm asking, and I'm only representing myself with this because I don't even speak for the other two appellants, because we appealed separately. We put our appeals fees separately.
Given the fact that it's now to September 30th, I believe, is there a possibility you could go? I mean, individually, but if you also had CSD support, that just bolsters the argument and
I think my best bet is to suggest to the general manager that these are the things that the CSD should be asking for. And without board direction, she can decide if that's in the best interest within her scope of responsibilities at the CSD. So yes, there's some ways that we can get support without getting full direction from the board in that time.
Well, what I do really appreciate, I think most, and it's probably all three of you, but you wrote it out, is the idea of having a sustainable, manageable, easily found and understandable process for check the box. Did they do this? Is it done? Because we know when we've reviewed projects that have come back to APAC, and it's 40 conditions of approval. And some of them are before you break ground, some of them before you first sail the foam, others. And we've asked, basically, the only way the county can follow it up is, if a citizen makes a complaint. That's the only process. That is not a process. So I think you've laid out something that it doesn't take a rocket scientist to realize makes sense. Hopefully you will get the right people at county planning to not put up their usual obstacles, and they could just say, let's do this.
Yeah, I mean, like Dean is saying, this stuff is incredibly complicated.
Yeah.
You've got legal agreements, letters and site agreements, and 40-year-old developer agreements, and things change over time, and who's tracking. I mean, I tried to document a lot of this stuff within this so people have some visibility, but yeah, I mean, it's impossible. And there's a couple things going on, right? The county has strong motivation to get these subdivisions approved. And over time, the CSD, through bad governance or bad decisions or bad business dealings, has kind of screwed the people of El Dorado Hills, or Serrano specifically. Those two things can be equally true, and we need to kind of resolve them in the future so that we don't have this, because the county needs to provide a little more governance in this issue because they're responsible for the developer agreement.
It seems to me that you're asking for a separate agency that would look at these things and then make a report, something similar to the civil grand jury taking a look at these things and making a report to the county. Because if you don't get these things out to the general public, where do they go?
I don't look at it as a separate agency. I think that I'm asking staff, the planning department, and maybe the transportation division, and maybe not be so quick and so biased towards getting things approved and actually doing some of the work that we as individuals have done to go back and review these obligations, the history of them, and are they being met, and what's the right thing to do as part of the process of approving individual subdivisions going forward. That's it. So it doesn't have to be, and if it gets bad enough, yeah, maybe you take it to the grand jury, but or some other oversight body. But hopefully the county agrees that this is in their interest to be more transparent.
And my question is that if this has been going on and you feel it's been going on, what's going to behoove them all of a sudden to take a more positive approach to look at these things? There has to be not just a carrot, but also a stick. All right.
I think that the staff needs to take it on, but we need our board of supervisors to provide policy direction in this regard, based on the feedback you're getting.
Go ahead and do the microphone so we can hear it on the.
I just want to interject really quick on that note is, we're not here to ask anyone to do any legal measures, and APAC does not do that. We're here to try to work with the county. We're here to call this out there's been many years that we've called out, they're not conditioning off-site improvements for DOT. That's why we did Measure Y, Measure E, all of these things. But what it boils down to, and I've been involved with this, what does boil down to, there's legal consequences if the county is not doing, and I can name, I was oversight of 12 local agencies. I could name you legal consequences of several of those local agencies because they didn't follow their own manuals, guidelines, DOT approval processes. So there are legal consequences. With that said, we're trying to work with the county and set up it's just common sense. What they're supposed to be doing. Staff is supposed to be reviewing these projects. Staff is supposed to be looking at the outside DOT requirements for infrastructure. Staff is supposed to be looking at our roads. Is there site distance? Can the roads support this capacity? If there's back 12 years ago, when Village M the density increases were done, at that time, they should have reviewed the traffic. It's a really quick calculation to know that if you change it from 37 ranchettes to 156, you now have, what did I calculate it? Almost 3,000 trips per day now. I mean,
Tara, can we would like to open it up
Yeah.
the floor for any more questions.
But to your point, you're right. It's public pressure, and there are legal ramifications. But it's basically we're calling out to the county. County, you have your. I'm telling you, they know what their processes are. They have a process. It's just not being followed. It's not being done.
Bill, you sure?
Okay.
Okay.
Can I interject?
Yeah, so you're good. So we're gonna start with Bob, and anybody else in the room, raise your hand when you're ready.
I know Dean had a comment. I presume that's why you moved to. But I'm putting my planning commission hat on. Over a year ago, when I was chair of the commission, Dave Spar and I both went to our full commission and asked full commission, and they all concurred 100% to schedule a series of hearings that were to talk about an analysis of where our Pacific plans actually stood. And so we had a good understanding as we look forward, knowing the fact that we had a half a dozen new Pacific plans coming forward. We wanted to get a checkpoint on saying where's the status, what have we enforced, what hadn't been enforced, why is there still holes in the thing? The entire commission voted not once but 3 times to ask the planning director to put that on the agenda. We have not been successful in being able to do it. So there's a system breakdown between what the commission had asked for some time ago. And Dave, if you wanted to correct my statement or want to elaborate, please do. But there was a interest on the commission's point of view, and we were willing to do the hard work. And the staff said we can't be burdened with that, and so that's where it stands. It'd be nice if citizens believe that the commission is the appropriate role to do that analysis, to let staff and supervisors know that that's the case. Thank you.
So I was going to make a similar point earlier, but I don't want to open the can of worms any farther. We get asked periodically to look back on projects to see, what was fulfilled and wasn't. We both don't have the charter or the time to do that. Nor can we leap in on an opinion on this either, really, on the appeals. But I would personally like to support that effort. And if you could help us know how to help you, let us know. Because I think we can chime in on that.
Yeah.
Absolutely, Bill, I will.
Especially if you
No,
remind us.
I believe you will, Bob.
Remind us when it's agendized, because we try to get those agendas on time. In fact, your agenda for tomorrow is sitting in a draft folder in our website right now, and I just haven't. Time is not my friend. But are there any other questions in the room? Oh, Dean, you got something? Go.
I don't want to overtalk this. but I do want to make the point that government is highly, as you've come to conclude, highly regulated. And we're overlooking the regulations that apply. There is a monitoring and compliance function in government code if you adopt a specific plan. The county never implemented it. They have no records of monitoring appropriately their specific plans. So this is what I was mentioning about the glossary or the index of things we've learned. We're going to adopt additional specific plans. There's no doubt in Dorado County. And every one of those should have APAC, if we find that the government code requires it, making the recommendation that that monitoring is implemented in the specific plan as approved, which implements a law that's been around since before our first specific plan. And the county is sitting with its pants around its ankles because it hasn't done any of these monitoring things, and all it can do is lose because it didn't do any of the compliance routines. And I'll just add one more thing. It just blows my mind that I can come to this same facility for the fire district and have the fire district say, we have no issue with Serrano whatsoever. And their council is Serrano's council. It just blows my mind that these kinds of things are just on the surface overlooked. It's got to change. The same council that negotiated the deal to give away a $10 million park responsibility for their developer. It's wild, but it's not defensible. And that ends up hurting the public. So we've got to get more involved. Thank you.
I think that's the one last message we want. We ends up hurting the
Yeah, please do.
Okay. So I know usually we review the projects in advance of approval, right? And go through the conditions and, all the stuff. But going through this led me back to the original final EIR for the El Dorado Hills specific plan, which is basically Serrano. As part of that, one of the issues that was identified was White Rock Road, because the build out of Serrano would cause problems with that. The improvement for that was to widen it 4 lanes. And now we're sitting here and 40 years later, the public are paying for the expansion of White Rock Road because it wasn't done as part of the requirements for the final EIR for the El Dorado Hills specific plan to be approved. Also in regards to some of the things Dean's brought up, I've reviewed some of the CFDs recently. So the CFD, which is Mello-Roos, a bond is taken out to provide financing for the developer to do specific infrastructure improvements. That's paid back through Mello-Roos. So the homeowners in that area are paying for those improvements. So if the bond is taken out and the improvements aren't actually done, then you're paying for nothing. You're paying for interest, or you're paying for whatever else happened that weren't the very specific things that were supposed to happen with that funding. So all of these things are tying together. I think it's a great time to be able to bring this stuff out. There have been things like this brought up for some time, and it's just kind of continued as normal. So hopefully there's an opportunity now for a positive change to be presented so that staff does in fact start to do things differently. Otherwise, we're going to be stuck in the same cycle, and we're going to be paying out money that we shouldn't have to pay out. So that's all.
Thanks. Okay, if there's no more questions. Well, thank you for taking the time. We appreciate the fact that it's very unusual, 3 different appellants on one project, but thank you all for what you've done. And don't forget, they had to write a check to do this, each of them. So if you have questions, if there's something you want to pass along, I think most people can reach everybody, but if you can't, send it to us and we'll make sure that each of them sees what you're asking. We do have a couple items that we'll go back to we skipped, and it's going to be 5 minutes. Clock, ready? Here we go. Thank you guys again. So this is nothing new. We do it every month, but we just want to let people know that these are the projects that we're still under the process of reviewing. We're still talking about Marble Valley, waiting for the final EIR. We believe it's sometime next year. Lime Rock Valley, same thing, sometime probably next year. Costco, it had been suggested maybe this summer, maybe the fall. We will find out when that final comes back. Generations Green Valley, there's a final pending, but we haven't heard anything from them in, I think, 2 years. 2 years. So the Gateway El Dorado specific plan, we believe there's something. They have a DIR, a draft DIR pending coming to us, we think, soonish. So be ready. No holidays. And then as we talked about tonight, Serrano Village D1 was the last one that came along, and that is literally right behind us, along where Wilson extent is. So they have the application in, and it's in eTrack, and I believe I have the documents all on that project page on the website. Town and Country Village, obviously that project was returned by the Board of Supervisors to the Planning Commission. I have not talked to them in several months, but I believe everybody was traveling over the summer, so we had a little break on that. I guess I need to actually be over there and hit it. The last thing I did want to mention, it was brought up tonight, the El Dorado Hills CSD Cityhood Environmental Review. We've shied away on this one because this is essentially, it's more of a political thing than APAC takes on. If there's anything identified in the negative deck that they have proposed they want to go with, we probably would have maybe weighed in. And I don't know if anybody works on it next by Monday morning and submit it. Maybe we can. But what's in the board packet for the Tuesday board meeting, they did identify a few things. I just wanted to include this on here. If you want to make comments on this, the links on the CSC's website, it's under, you can find it by searching in the menu, but we have it here. And again, we'll post this. It'll be on by tomorrow morning. But you can have your public comments. And again, it's about the environmental impacts. It's not about whether you think the city is great, horrible, somewhere in between, what you would change. It's strictly the environmental. And it's a big document. But essentially, the last 4 cities that have been incorporating California have come to the conclusion when they're doing the environmental review is that if there's not a specific project being proposed, there's really nothing environmental to do. Ben, I think you made a sort of a clarifying statement at the board meeting for the CSD. It's like, what is the environmental impact of changing the name of the Norm Rowett Pavilion to the Norm Rowett City Hall Pavilion? There's not an environmental on that. The analysis done by the county's consultant, and they do a lot of work for the county in terms of EIRs, was that, yeah, they were unsure about the LAFCO boundaries, why things were included, why things weren't. The rural regions included in the boundaries, whereas El Dorado Hills primarily is a community region. So they suspect that maybe that wasn't an adequate enough review. But again, and I understand what they're saying, and then also the RENA numbers for the housing. And they're suggesting that a potential city of El Dorado Hills, the first city council, like the first thing they'll have to do is rezone to meet the RENA allocations. Well, that's not something that happens in a day. That takes time. But even if they did, right, it would be something that would be reviewed and analyzed. There'd be an environmental analysis of it. Just like any project that would be proposed here right now has to be analyzed by the county. Well, if we were to become a city, the city would have to do the analysis as well. So it's not like an environmental project is coming, and the project's coming, it's going to hit the environment and won't be reviewed. It's just who's going to do the review, I think, is more the question we just talked about. But they did identify things in the document from the county consultants. It's posted on Legistar. We'll link to it maybe tonight. Okay.
Well, one question, I know, Bob, you said maybe 30 days wasn't enough. It's only about a 75-page document. It's not a full, environmental impact report that could run hundreds of pages. So you can read it in about an hour, hour and a half at night, like when you get home tonight, because you have nothing better to do. Yeah, but I mean, so I think, and like any other these documents, they repeat the same damn thing 15 times. Every section, they repeat the introduction that they did at the beginning, and then they focus on the specific area of the CEQA document, and then they conclude the same language in 5 paragraphs, but they just insert, okay, environmental, transportation.
Noise,
So
yeah.
it in an hour, no more than an hour and a half, and you will be an expert on it. But please look at it. It's got some very interesting comments on it. And remember, it's only the first start, because if this goes this way, then they have to do a full fiscal analysis. And that is a document where people really need to focus, because that's going to say if in fact a city of El Dorado Hills, is it supportive, and what is it going to take to, what kind of divorce payments is it going to take to the county? Yeah.
But also, please do look at it, because, just because I looked at it and to me, I wasn't triggered by anything in there. I mean, the rural region thing kind of jumped up, but I was like, well, is it significant enough that we want to look and make comments? You might read it and determine that it absolutely has. Oh, was that my 5? Okay, so I'm fired. I do want to, yes.
I just want to make note, just this afternoon, before I shut everything down at home, Montano submitted an
Yeah.
extension to their application, so it's still looming out there. And
Yes.
it's apparently that they're just recommending it go out to 2030. So,
It's for their existing approval.
right.
Yeah, for the specific, it is a specific plan, right? No, it was
No, it
phase
was.
2, the
was-
Montana phase 2, yeah.
Right, okay, so
No, it's not the apartments, it's a time extension for what was approved.
for what
The
was.
retail and the
approved,
commercial.
Not the new project.
And that literally, you're right, it literally came out and
Yeah.
I didn't have time to grab a screen cap or
So I
anything
just
for
want to
it,
make
so.
note of that. So Montano.
That'll be on the
they're
website
still
too.
building stuff.
So-
So.
Thank you, everyone. Our next meeting is Wednesday, September 9th, back here in this room. You got another one?
No, I got one other thing to say.
Oh, say it.
Hey, look, if I want to do a shout out to 2 individuals in here, they probably don't want to be recognized, but Steve Gutierrez, Ben Glickman. We noticed today that you have filed to run for open spots on the CSD board, along with others. I really, and I think the community should really appreciate that you stepped up, you volunteered, you've been members, you've been going to those meetings for a long time. You haven't always been, you sometimes have been critical, shall we say, but you are choosing to perhaps sacrifice a lot of time in the next 3 or 4 months running for election. And then if you are elected for the next 4 years, serving the community. And I guarantee you, no matter how much time you think it's going to take more time.
Yeah.
And so the sacrifice that you're willing to put up, it's family time, it's time with your spouses, your kids, and anyone who runs for any office. We do appreciate that you do take the time and effort to run. So I just want to do a shout out to you 2, and to also the 3 other individuals who are running.
Yeah, and I will second that because, Ben and I talked about this for a long time. There's 3 openings, and there was only 1 candidate, and the time period ended. They extended it. Our concern was like when we went through the process with the Board of Supervisors, where we were looking for them to help appoint for a vacant position, and that got sideways fast. Thank you for trying, Greg. Nobody wanted to do that. So Ben and I talked. I filled out an application. I do not want to do it. And I am so grateful, Steve, Ben, Josh, who else? Wayne, and to Steve Ferry, that you guys are willing to do that. I guess I'm still coming to the meetings all the time, but so our next meeting, September 9th. Thank you again, everyone. Late night.